Okay, so we're back for another season. I wanted to start things off. I did not want to do anything the last couple days, mostly because I wanted to see how free agency would shake out in our league. So that's why it is now Wednesday, and I'm doing one of these. Season starts in a little over a week, so 8 days. We also have a Friday night game, so don't forget that too. It's very, very strange this year. I get it. NFL is trying to get more things to watch every single week, but it's still just like Friday night games and Thursday night games, and then we're gonna have the Monday night game. So it's just like every week you're gonna have to be on top of when someone's playing. But anyway, I want to start things off. Welcome back to the league. Welcome to year 13. We're more or less just kind of. I'll start things off by saying there's no one in this league, I especially think this year, who did exceptionally well in the draft. I think there are a few teams that I really like their teams. I think they have a good foundation, but there's no like early onset favorite. That being said, I figured I'd start my video series off with a team that I really like because I usually like their drafts and they've disappointed me the last few years. So hopefully things kind of turn around. But we're going to start things off with Justin and Angry Nunchucks. So, kind of getting into it, you start out, I think, what was it, 52 on Omarion Hampton. And Hampton is, if I remember correctly, Matthew Berry's ride or die this year. He's the rookie starting running back for the Chargers. And so I was waiting to see, knowing you, knowing how you've drafted the last few years, you're usually going after like the young, you've especially just leaned really into the young players. That's just what your calling card essentially has become. So I was waiting to see who it might be. It makes sense it's Hampton, especially because he's in a Jim Harbaugh scheme, especially because the offensive coordinator, if anyone remembers correctly, is Greg Roman. All of that is to say, 52 on Omarion Hampton, especially when I myself spent 45 on James Cook. I think Kyron Williams went for 44. Bucky Irving went for 46. All of the players around that range, I like Hampton more than all of them. I think his situation's great. Despite the loss of left tackle Rashawn Slater, the Chargers' offensive line is excellent. Obviously, with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator, with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach, they are going to want to run the ball. He's a great downhill runner. He's agile. He's got a very quick 40. And if you don't know anything else about him, he wanted to go back to North Carolina for his senior year. Bill Belichick's the new head coach. Met with him, and he's like, hey, I'd love to have you. You got to go to the league. You're ready. There's nothing for you here. Go. But when Bill Belichick, all right, tells you you're ready. So I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. I would even say I love the pick. 52 is right around, actually a little less than what I thought he would go for. I had him personally as like a $65 player. That's how much I believe in him. I can see a 1,200-yard season. I can see another 300 yards receiving. I can see probably around 14 touchdowns. He might lead the league in touchdowns. It's that kind of upside. So getting a player like that for $52 to start things off, you were patient. It paid off. Love the pick. Love the pick. Next, we were continuing kind of like the theme of obviously the young players. So we went $41 for Travion Henderson, who is the running back out of New England. Now, I like Henderson. I do not like Henderson as much as Hampton. There's a couple reasons for that, but we'll start off with the good. So he was taken in the second round out of Ohio State. He shared that Ohio State backfield with Quinshon Judkins, who is on the Browns but has not signed his contract. Anyway, this is about Henderson. Henderson was at Ohio State, very good player, 7.1 yards per carry. He is not the tallest guy. I want to say he's like 5'9". So he's a little bit more of kind of like a bowling ball than anything else. But what he does really well is like he has good broad jumped, good high jumped, good lateral quickness, good vision. He checks all the boxes on every. He does everything well. He's also a very, very good pass blocker, so he will be on the field quite a bit. Um, it's interesting to me that the Patriots took him because Ramondre Stevenson's there. Now, I think Stevenson is also a good running back. I don't think he's just like another average guy. I think Stevenson's genuinely a good running back. So this is a little difficult for me because while I think they'll run the ball more, especially with Mike Vrabel there, the offensive coordinator is Josh McDaniels, who likes to air it out. I understand that Henderson probably should take the job. He'll probably get the job, but I'm not seeing like a Bucky Irving kind of, or I just did Hampton. I'm not seeing that kind of breakout. Just because with Stevenson there, it truly is going to be a timeshare. And $41 for that is a little rich. It's a very rich timeshare for me. I'm not even sure he's the starter to begin the season. So it's tough for me to really like this, especially considering, again, I just mentioned Bucky Irving went for 46. James Cook went for 45. Kyron Williams went for 44. I would have taken all of them over Henderson at 41. It's just a very, very rich gamble on a rookie who is in an okay situation. Hampton's in a great situation. Henderson's in an okay situation. New England literally just cut like Cole Strange, who was their first round pick 3 years ago. So the O-line's not great. I think Vrabel's coming in and they're going to set the tone. This is more like, I think next year he'll be someone to watch, but this is very rich for a player that I like the talent. I don't love the situation. I'm not in love with basically where this could be. On the back half, he could be I see him more as an RB3 and you have him as your RB2. And in our league, I get that, but I'm not sure he'll break 1,000 yards rushing. I could see quite a few yards receiving, probably just like Hampton. He'll be around 300, but maybe 6, 8 touchdowns or so. It's just tough. Stevenson's a good player, and he's not going away. So don't love $41 on a maybe touch the ball 60% of the time timeshare guy. It's a little rich for my blood. Next we did, I think, what was it? We spent, okay, 17 on we originally, the first pick was George Pickens, but we'll get back to that. We're going more by the money. So 17 on George Kittle. I like this. We've talked about like tight ends and how people tend to overlook them in our league. They undervalue them. Mackenzie will talk to you about how he's taken Sam Laporta and he's taken Brock Bowers back-to-back years and got them for $1, and they were just excellent players. Top 15, essentially, wide receivers. All of that's to say, Kittle was excellent last year. I think there were a lot of circumstances around him being excellent, considering all of the injuries, like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall gets shot to start the season. Christian McCaffrey's hurt. So I don't know if Kittle's going to be as good as he was last year, but he's been essentially a top 5 tight end for 7 years now, essentially. So we're talking like at least a startable like wide receiver tight end, essentially. I think things will be a little different once Ayuk comes back, but right now, Deebo Samuel's gone. We're not really sure what to make of McCaffrey. Ayuk still hurts. Ricky Pearsall's there. Jawan Jennings is there. I like Jawan Jennings. Don't love him. Like him. But Kittle is the consummate professional who's always consistently there. So I would bet on a 1,000-yard season. I would bet on 8 touchdowns. And I'd bet on him doing what he does. He's a startable, solid, we'll say wide receiver like 3-ish kind of player. So what I'm talking when we say wide receiver 3, well, we're talking like top like 45-ish, top 50-ish kind of player at the position. I think he's a good, solid player. I think for $17, that's a steal. I think there were other steals for right around the same money, but that doesn't change the fact that he's just going to give you exactly what you need. So yeah, I like this pick. I like the money amount. He's a terrific player. Yeah, that's good use of funds. We'll kind of double back. We mentioned all these guys drafted after him, but you actually started out your draft with $12 on George Pickens. Now, I know Pickens was like a favorite of Jerome's for like a breakout, and I will admit, as a Steelers fan, seeing him get traded away makes me unhappy because he's still really young. He's going into his fourth year, and his potential has not been unlocked. And he's going to an offense that, quite frankly, is going to have to air it out because their defense is terrible. Cowboys' defense is terrible. No one's talking about it. They're terrible. They can't stop the run to save their life. So I'm imagining quite a few shootouts. But, oh yeah, well, this is where I'll mention Thursday night, Saquon and the Eagles are going to run roughshod on the Cowboys. You heard it here first. But what does that have to do with Pickens? So he hasn't put it together at any point in time. I think his 3 years, he's never been like a top 40-ish receiver. There have been times, I remember a couple years ago, he had like a four touchdown game in week 15. He's just, excuse me, he's super volatile. He's a hothead, but he's not been in the best situations. I don't think he broke 60 catches last year, and he was the number one on the Steelers, and they just couldn't do it. So it's kind of weird because I don't really believe in the Cowboys, but I do believe in them playing catch up. So all that's to say, I definitely see 1,000 yards. I definitely see like 7, 8 touchdowns and probably like 70 receptions. So funny enough, that's right around what I just mentioned with George Pickens. Or this is George Pickens, what I mentioned with George Kittle. They're both essentially like mid-range wide receiver 3 type of guys who are good, who are startable in our league, and they're super solid. I'm pretty sure at this moment in time you spent $12 on him, so that's not bad. I mean, considering some of the players that went for less in our league at wide receiver, it's not great. I think Juwan Jennings went for like $3. I got Jacoby Myers, who's been, by the way, I'm just going to, this will tangent later, but Jacoby Myers has been a top 25 receiver 4 years in a row, and I cannot find a trade for that guy. It's wild. But Jacoby Myers is like in a better situation than this, and he went for like 6. So there's just a ton of receivers who went for like half of Pickens. Pickens went for so much because it was early in the draft. I get it. But, it's all right. He's in a better situation. He's startable, but he's not the best. So I don't think he's really on it. I don't think he's even starting for you right now. So I think you just got a little, you just kind of jumped the gun there a little bit. But that's okay. There's nothing too bad about that. Later, Rome Odunze for $7. Ooh, I do like Odunze. All right. So this is kind of like, you paid way less for Odunze than I thought he would go. All right, so Odunze has some serious upside. All right, so who is Rome Odunze? So he was the number 9 pick last year out of Washington after they went all the way to the national championship game, and they lost to Michigan. Right after Michael Penix Jr., funny enough, went to Atlanta, their quarterback. But he did not do too much. I don't even think he broke 60 catches on the Bears. Now, to be fair, the Bears were a mess. Caleb Williams was watching film by himself. Matt Eberflus doesn't know how to coach offense at all. He got fired halfway through the season. Keenan Allen is now gone, so some of those targets open up. They did spend a first-round pick on Colson Loveland, the tight end, which is very, very rich for my blood. I do not like taking tight ends that high, but I digress. The point is, Odunze, kind of not his own fault. He didn't have a great rookie year. I don't think anyone in that situation could have a great rookie year. Um, I think things will open up now, especially because Ben Johnson, the Detroit Lions ballyhooed offensive coordinator, is now the head coach in Chicago. So you would think some of that creativity he had to open things up would go to Odunze. The only thing is he's kind of playing second banana to DJ Moore, and they just used a first-round pick on Loveland. So there's a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago now. That doesn't even count like what we're doing with the running backs. Not that I love DeAndre Swift. Don't get me wrong. I think he's all right. I don't love him. But we know how much Johnson likes to use running backs. Like, let's be real. So, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and that is after using Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, by the way. So, yeah, Odunze is like maybe the third, maybe the fourth mouth to feed. But we're kind of hoping for a breakout. To be honest, I just talked about George Pickens. I just talked about George Kittle. It's kind of in that same breath, probably 1,000 yards, probably 7-8 touchdowns, probably 70 receptions. So another solid wide receiver 3-esque player. So we're taking a lot of like young guys with upside who have a pretty solid floor. And I don't mind it. At this price, $7, there's a good amount for a second-year receiver. I think, what was it? We talk about it. So we talk about there's usually the breakouts happen as, well, rookie running backs, duh. Rookies show it early as a running back. Second-year receivers, they usually take the leap after a year. And then third-year quarterbacks, so that's usually how it goes. So I get it with taking Odunze. I like Odunze. Very talented player. Then, what were we doing? Yeah, so we spent a little bit more money. We went to go get Jameson Williams for $12 on Detroit because you're a Lions fan. Okay. Williams is a little bit... This is going to be kind of tough for me. So I like the, we'll call them floor picks. I've liked the floor picks so far. Like, I like Kittle. I like Odunze. I like Pickens. We spent a little more, kind of like we had just spent. Yeah, we spent the same amount on Pickens that we spent on Williams. And in like a weird way, they're kind of like going to end up around the same, but how they get there is completely different. We're going into year 3 with Jameson Williams. Last year was the breakout, I guess. Actually, 22, 23, 24. This is year 4. So last year, he was kind of a late bloomer, third-year breakout wide receiver. He was drafted, gosh, I remember that draft. He went 12th overall, and I thought that was crazy. But he was drafted for his explosive speed. He's a burner. In Detroit, funny enough, all the other mouths to feed, they need someone to blow the top off. That is Williams. So, he is really, really good at catching the deep ball. He gets great run after catch. He gets great yards per reception, yards per touch. But he doesn't catch the ball a lot just because there's a lot of people to feed. Like, let's see. So there's Sam Laporta. There's Jahmyr Gibbs. There's David Montgomery. There's Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, where does Williams kind of fit in that nebulous, in that calculus? So, I think he'll also get around 1,000 yards. I think he'll also have some, funny enough, like rushing yards too. They'll probably give him the ball like some gadget plays. I think he'll also get around 7 touchdowns. He'll have a low amount of receptions, maybe like 60. The unfortunate thing is, I think if Williams was on a worse team, he'd have better numbers because they'd better be able to kind of use him. Like, I would love to see him on a team like San Francisco, or like the Rams, or Arizona even, with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think some of those teams he would be the elite usage guy. But the problem is, between all of the guys I just named, there's a lot of talent in Detroit. So I like him as a deep threat. I think he's a good player. I think you kind of overpaid just like Pickens. You're just kind of taking another wide receiver, three-ish guy who's got a we'll say a little unsteadier floor just because he's more boom or bust. He's a good young player. You're kind of hoping for the upside that he takes another step, and maybe it is possible he does. The issue is if he takes that step, it means someone's production around him is going down, and maybe Laporta's could be. I guess we could use less Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe I don't think Amon-Ra's going to take a step back. Everybody's in their prime. This is hard. So I can't really justify saying, oh, Jameson Williams probably got some upside like the other guys I named. Because his situation in a weird way is a little different where it's just like he's in a great situation team-wise, but stats-wise it's just okay because there's just a lot of people there. Like, I would, again, a great team, I would love to have him on. I mean, he'd be terrific on New England with Drake May. Yeah, there's just a lot of teams that I could picture him on where I would just feel very comfortable with him getting like high usage. And Detroit isn't going to give him high usage, so it's unfortunate. That lowers his ceiling. The floor is a little unsteady because he's boom or bust, but another wide receiver 3, so we're just kind of right now hitting singles, a lot of singles. So, good pick. I'm going to get this wrong. Another $12 at 123. This is on Tetiera McMillan. So that's the rookie wide receiver out of Arizona that the Panthers took, and they considered him to be the best rookie in the class. I didn't, but that's fine. He's 6'4", 220, so big dude. Funny enough, the way he plays, watching him, there's another guy in the division that he reminds me of, which is Drake London on Atlanta. He looks just like Drake London. The Panthers just trade away Adam Thielen, and I like Xavier Legette. Legette's not the number one. It's got to be McMillan. You don't do that unless you think he's ready. So he's kind of just hopping into a massive role, essentially, where he's going to be the number one as a rookie on a team. And it's going to be very sink or swim. Again, we're talking like 1,000 yards, 6-7 touchdowns. This one, I think, unlike Jameson Williams, probably at least 75 receptions. I like McMillan. I think he's a good player. I like his size. But the way Carolina's talking about him is they're going to use him like Mike Evans, and I'm going to need to see that to believe that. I don't know if McMillan's got that kind of like consistency in him. He's a good player. He's a tall player. I wouldn't call him explosive. He's a good jump ball guy. Kind of like your Keon Coleman pick last year. I'm just like, nah, I like him, but I'm not really sure this is the right team for him. So I'm going to kind of like pillow it and put it around, again, another wide receiver 3. We're just taking singles right now. Lots and lots of singles. At 125, we took our quarterback, Caleb Williams. Okay, this was not a single. This is, I'm going to call this like a suicide squeeze, because last year was brutal. All right, so there were some games, I want to say like 5 games where he had over 20 points as a quarterback, which sounds really good. But there were like 8 games where he scored under like 11, which is really bad. And so you're hoping with Caleb, he went, number 1 overall last year, and Jaden Daniels went number 2 overall, and Drake May went number 3 overall, and Michael Penix went number 8 overall, and Bo Nix went number 12 overall. And everybody except Penix, I would say, was better than Caleb. And that's only because Penix didn't play till like the back half of the season. We're talking like 6 games maybe. So like it was kind of brutal watching Caleb Williams in Chicago with like a bad O-line, bad coaching staff, despite having really good weapons. You're hoping that it gets better. I think he led the league in sacks last year. He took 68 sacks. So, yeah, do the math. 68 divided by 17. That's a lot of freaking sacks to take per game. He was just battered around and beaten. Um, Hopefully, the offensive line is a lot better. Not a little, a lot better with the amount of, like, stuff, essentially, they've thrown at the offensive line to get better, especially with Ben Johnson taking the job. Um, and then, yeah, we also mentioned Rome Odunze, but obviously DJ Moore's the number one. Colston Loveland is the tight end they took in the first round. They still have Cole Kmet. They got Luther Burden the third to essentially replace Keenan Allen. So, like, we have a lot of weapons. We hopefully think they have a good O-line, and the coach is genuinely excellent. It's not like it can get worse. So for $2, I don't mind taking the dive. I mean, that's what I did with Jaden Daniels last year. I was just like, look, I think he's just really talented. I like what they're doing in the preseason. I think he's going to be the guy. And I got him for $1, and I was right. I don't know if Caleb can be that for you, but his ceiling is so enormous. His talent is incredible. I still think he's one of the most talented players in the NFL, despite everything that happened with Jaden Daniels going to an NFC Championship game and him not making the playoffs. I think if you flip the situations, I don't know if he takes to an NFC Championship game by Daniels, but he certainly gets him to the playoffs. I don't know if Daniels gets the Bears to the playoffs last year with all the mess that they had. They were just a mess. So all that's to say, I can see probably like 3,800 yards passing, probably like 25 touchdowns. I think he's a back-end startable quarterback, so he's around like 13, 14, 15 quarterback in our league, which is starting. I mean, there's 14 teams in our league that is a starter, so he's around there. So to get that for $2, I can't really argue with it, especially because the upside's just enormous. Like, if Ben Johnson actually gets him to, like, calm down and not be pressured and do the things he's supposed to do, he'll be a top 5 quarterback, no problem, in fantasy. Like, no problem. So, yeah, you're going to have to take the waves, because there might be some brutal games. But if it doesn't work out at quarterback, you know what, you can just go find somebody. Like, it's not a big deal. A lot of teams take backup quarterbacks, and they're just foolish for doing so. So, I like Caleb. I like Caleb a lot just for the upside. Then at 127, Steelers guy. I kind of want him. Caleb Johnson, $9. All right. So we've talked about Marion Hampton. We've talked about Travion Henderson. We are just like tripling down on the rookie running backs. And we took Caleb Johnson. I know a ton about Caleb Johnson. So he's not super fast. He runs a 4.57 40-yard dash. He's not super quick. He has a 1.62 10-yard split. He wasn't super explosive at Iowa. I only want to say like a third of his runs were for 5 yards plus. He is, however, a big guy. He's like 6'3", and he's a pretty good receiver, even though he didn't do all that much in Iowa. The reason why the Steelers are bringing him in is because he's a picture-perfect fit for Arthur Smith's offense, which is a zone-based, gapped scheme running offense. Boy, that's a lot of words, Dylan. So we'll kind of dumb it down. Essentially, it's like this. I don't really like Arthur Smith. I don't think he's great. I will give him credit. He was offensive coordinator when Derrick Henry was on the come-up at Tennessee, and Derrick Henry became a guy. Now, to be fair, I think Derrick Henry's going to the Hall of Fame. I think that has more to do with Derrick Henry than it does with Arthur Smith. However, all that's to say is Derrick Henry was a great fit for what they were running in Tennessee. Well, guess what? They were still running that now, still the same guy, Arthur Smith, and Caleb Johnson is a great fit for that offense. Zone-based, gap-blocking scheme. He's got really good vision in that scheme. So, in this scheme, he's a perfect fit. That's why they got rid of Najee Harris, because Najee Harris, even more so than the non-explosiveness of him, he was more like a bowling ball than he was a talented breakaway guy. He wasn't a great fit for what the Steelers want to do, which is like essentially play smash mouth football. They want to play really good defense and they want to run the ball down your throat and occasionally do some play action pass. Will that get them very far this year? I am not sure. They surprised me. They're typically a playoff team, but it's not. It's gonna be not great. But all of that is to say, I really like Caleb Johnson for what he is and where he is. We talked about, I just talked about with this, Jamison Williams is in Detroit, and I kind of wish he was in a better situation. Caleb Johnson could not ask for a better situation. This is the perfect situation for him. He's in exactly the type of scheme you would want him to be. He's with exactly the kind of coaching staff you would want him to be. They're catering to exactly what he does well. So if you're looking for a breakout rookie running back who no one knows anything about, it's probably him. It would be him. So, yeah, I think he'll probably get like 30 receptions. I think he'll probably break 1,000 yards. I think he'll probably get like 9 touchdowns. And you might just be like, that sounds really familiar. It's because it is. I just said the same bare things for like Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson cost you $41. Caleb Johnson cost you $9. I like Travion Henderson as a talent more, but I like Caleb Johnson's situation way more. Even with Warren splitting carries with him, Warren's not as good as Ramondre Stevenson. So, yeah, I like this pick a lot. It won't be surprising to me if on the back end of your season, Caleb Johnson's starting for you over Henderson even. Just because if Henderson can't beat out Stevenson, it's gonna be a slog. So after that, 149, Emeka Egbuka. Okay. So this is the Bucs receiver. I didn't love them taking at 21 overall, for being super honest, because they need a linebacker like desperately. Levante David can't play forever. But before we get into that, we'll go into some things. So Bucs probably have the deepest receiving core in football. They're like 5 deep. So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, we'll say Emeka Egbuka, and Jalen McMillan, and Sterling Shepard essentially are the 5. Well, Chris Godwin's still coming off the ankle injury. I would know he's on my team, so he's not going to be ready for at least a month. Jalen McMillan sprained his neck against the Steelers. Also saw that game. He's gone for like 2 months. So, and Evans is always nicked up. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with the rookie kid, Emeka Egbuka. Now, he went back to Ohio State for his senior year. He wanted to win a national championship. Good on you. You did it. Hooray. He also wanted to help develop Jeremiah Smith. Hooray, you did that too, trying to become wide receiver U, even though LSU is wide receiver U. You're trying. He's played the slot. He's incredibly versatile. He's almost like a mirror of Chris Godwin, if I'm being honest. It's very strange. I guess that's why they picked him. But, yeah, he's got really good hands. He's very dependable. He's really good at reading coverage. He's really good out of the slot. I think he'll give you really good early value, depending on what happens as the season progresses. Like, once Godwin comes back, I can't imagine Egbuka is used as much, mostly because, like, you might say, it's like, oh, well, they drafted in the first round. Cool. They gave Chris Godwin $66 million. So, yeah. And Jalen McMillan last year was a breakout candidate who was a top 10 receiver in the last, I want to say, couple months. I would remember because Lauren traded for him, and then boom, he goes off like gangbusters because her luck is incredible. I like Egbuka. I think he's going to be an early starter for you. It's going to be kind of weird to see how the season plays out with Godwin, with McMillan, with Evans, but he's got a lot of talent. Kind of like Jamison Williams, though, I don't love the situation just because there's so many people there. Like, I didn't even mention Kate Otten. I didn't even mention Bucky Irving. So, as you can see, there's a lot of mouths to feed on an elite offense. And usually when something like that happens, I want, either the top dog or I want like the number 2 dog. The problem is, just like I don't think Jameson Williams is the number 2, he's definitely not the number 1, but I don't know if he's the number 2. Ibuka might be the number 2 to start things off because Otten's hurt now. Obviously, Chris Godwin's hurt, but I don't know if that's going to stay the same the whole season. I guess we're just going to have to find out. I don't mind it to find out, considering what we paid for him, like $8. They were just, excuse me, safer receivers, essentially, to take with that. This is a very wavy boomer bust pick. We're going to kind of split the baby. We'll say 850 yards receiving, maybe like 7 touchdowns. It's just going to be like really good start and then maybe not as great end, essentially, just because there's a lot of guys. There's just a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa. Sorry. We'll go for the last few picks. We took Cam Skattebo, who is the number 2 for the Giants. Yeah, New York Giants. So he was drafted in the 4th round. He's not super explosive. He had a breakout at Arizona State last year. He's already 23, so he's kind of old for a running back. I think he's all right. He's like a good player. I actually don't think he's as talented as Tyrone Tracy, who was the starter in the Giants after they got rid of Saquon, which is a whole other problem. But so I don't love spending the $5. I would have been more happy to spend the $5 on a safer, probably player with a more concise role. Example would be like, we'll say Rachaad White. Even though I don't really like Rachaad White, we'll say Ramondre Stevenson went for $1. Like, that's crazy. Najee Harris went for $1. Those guys are older, unexciting running backs, but they have a better chance of contributing than what Skattebo is. Unlike Hampton, unlike Henderson, unlike Caleb Johnson, Skattebo's just coming in kind of like to be in the room and not be considered to be the guy. I don't think Skattebo is going to have a chance to be the starter at all at any point in the season. You just paid $5 for a rookie handcuff, essentially. Maybe 650 yards rushing, maybe a couple hundred yards receiving, maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns. He has more value to whoever the owner of Tyrone Tracy, I think that's Robbie. I'm pretty sure you might have spent more on Skattebo than Robbie spent on Tyrone Tracy, who's actually the starter. And Tracy, I think, is also younger than Skattebo. So it's kind of like this where you're kind of getting a little cute, and you're just taking a guy because he's a rookie without really just, like, knowing what he is, essentially. He's a good player, but, like, let's not go crazy here. He's not probably going to do anything for you. He's a guy. He's not going to be the guy. He's just a guy. But at this point in the draft, we're just kind of like taking people. Ooh, that's fun. We took Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver out of Houston. All right. I do know a lot about this. So Houston, what's up with Houston? Robbie loves Houston. So Tank Dell's injured. He's gone for the year. Stephon Diggs is in New England after he blew out his ACL. We already know that Nico Collins is the guy there. But they need a number 2. So they basically took the 2 Iowa State wide receivers, Higgins being the first one, and he's also kind of like McMillan. He's also another really tall dude, 6'4", around 215, 220. So McMillan's 6'4", 220. I want to say Higgins is like 6'4", 215. So dude's huge. He could definitely play basketball. I think they got like Christian Kirk there, and they got like obviously his teammate Jalen Noel. But if you've been paying attention to any of the preseason or training camp buzz, Higgins looks like the number 2. I like the pick just because if he is the number 2, as we've seen in Houston, there are a lot of injuries. So Higgins is an explosive player. We don't really know what to make of this. I like the pick in the same sense that McMillan you got as kind of like a wide receiver 3. This is kind of like a wide receiver 4 or 5. I'm only going to put like 850 receiving yards and maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns, but that's mostly because I don't really know what to make of Houston's offense. If that offense is what it was 2 years ago, then he's probably a starting receiver in our league. He's a solid wide receiver 3. If it is what it is last year, he's probably like a wide receiver 5, and he's sitting on your bench, and maybe occasionally you can break him out, or in case of emergency and Nico Collins gets hurt. I like Higgins' talent. I genuinely like where he is on the depth chart. I'm just really uncertain of the situation because Houston was freaking terrible on offense last year, and while I don't think it can get worse, that offensive line somehow did get worse. So I'm not really sure. That's a weird, just very weird spot. I like him though. I do like Jaden Higgins a lot. I don't mind the pick for like $5. Then we finish things off. $10. Tyler Warren. Okay, so I thought would be the first tight end taken in the draft. He was not. Loveland went to the Bears because they like that he can block. Warren is just like a straight Brock Bowers receiving threat. I think he had just a stupid line last year, which was like 1,200 yards receiving on like 100 and some odd receptions. So, like, he is excellent. I love his talent. Brock Bowers was great for the Raiders, but kind of like the same way I think the Raiders kind of got to spread the love this year and got to get like Jacoby Myers, and we brought in Geno Smith, and we brought in Ashton Genty. Actually, yeah, the Raiders are in a better situation now, and Brock Bowers' numbers will go down. Whereas the Colts are in a okay situation. Like, I would say Michael Pittman Jr. is a good receiver. Jonathan Taylor's an excellent running back. The offensive line's okay. No, they're not okay. They lost 2 starters, so they're like below. They're like bottom 20. They're like 25th ranked offensive line. So they're not good. They're bad. But really, the issue is like the quarterbacks Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. Like it's not getting better. If he went to like a high flying team, like I don't know, like the Bucks, like with Ibuka. Ibuka's going to start out hot. There's a lot of mouths to feed, but he's got a lot of talent. I think Tyler Warren's got a lot of talent, but I'm really hesitant of like what to do with that, considering the situation we are in with like the quarterbacks, Daniel Jones, and then Anthony Richardson's there in case Daniel Jones gets hurt. And I'm just like, that's awful. I hate that. We've spent a lot of money on these back 3 picks, like $5 on Higgins, $5 on Scadaboo, $10 on Warren, and there was like, that's $20, and we could have used that on like a lot of things. So I don't really love the process of continuing to like quadruple down on super young rookie players just because they're super young rookie players when we can just get some like consistent production. Like Rico Dowdle went for a couple bucks. Jawan Jennings went for $3. What is it? Who am I thinking of? I think like TJ Hawkinson went for like $3 or so. Deebo Samuel went for like $8. Who was it? Where are you? I know you're pushing for RJ Harvey, who's a favorite of mine, and I know you got beat out for that, so that kind of made me laugh a little bit. But no, there's a lot of back-end guys who went for like super cheap, and yeah, like Jerry Jeudy went for like $8. Jerry Jeudy was a top 15 receiver last year, and even if you want to say, oh, well, you know, Jerry Jeudy won't be as good this year because they brought in Joe Flacco and blah, 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 blah. Literally, he was a top 15 receiver last year who literally helped someone win a fantasy championship. And he went for $8. And you're going to tell me Tyler Warren is going to be as good as him? A guy coming off over 80, like how many receptions? I'm going to look this up like right now. Like, yeah. So he had 90 receptions, over 1,200 yards last year. And Tyler Warren is $2 is worth $2 more than that? Ain't no way. That's crazy. So like some of this stuff I think is just like a little out of hand on the back end of your draft, where you're just taking guys because they're young and you're not actually like looking for like, oh, that guy has really, really good season and he's been pretty consistent. I ought to look into like getting him. Calvin Ridley went for $6. Like, I'm not saying they're gonna be number one threats, but I guarantee you at the end of the season, Jerry Jeudy and Calvin Ridley are better than any of these three guys. And you paid $20 for these three guys. So that's kind of crazy to me. But all of that's to say, yeah, you are probably my number one draft, which is kind of crazy to say. But I'm going to give you like a B. We'll give you a B plus. I think the team's really deep. I like some of your upside. Obviously, I don't agree with everything you did, but I'm never going to agree with everything someone does. I think it's a good mix of youth, upside. There's a lot of like interesting players who I think can really help you. The one concern I have, which is what we've kind of talked about going in circles the last few years, is just like, I don't know if you're going to do the correct things to get you in the playoffs. If like, we'll just bring it out. If Patrick said, hey, Justin Jefferson's on the trading block, I need help at like receiver. He doesn't. But what thought exercise, people, okay? Just go with it. If he said that and you were just like, well, you know, I'll offer you like George Pickens and Caleb Johnson, I'm going to be like, that's stupid and you should offer better players. And you might be like, well, you know, they're good players. I'm like, I don't care. It's Justin Jefferson. And we'll say he's having like he's the number 2 receiver in fantasy, averaging, which at this point would be like 19 points per game, which is a crazy number, by the way. That's a little less than Saquon. So like, if a star player is out there, are you going to be the person to win that bidding war? And the answer has consistently been no. And that is kind of my issue with like the in-season management of your team. You have all these good players. One of them might even become a star. Maybe it's Caleb. Maybe it's Amari Hampton. I don't know. I think it'll be Hampton, but I don't know. But you need at least 2 stars to get you essentially where you want to go. You can't win. Like, maybe you can navigate the season with depth and you can kind of get into the playoffs, but you're not going to go anywhere because you're going to run into a team that's just going to run you over. Like, I like Brian's team last year. I thought Brian's team was the most consistent team. I thought Brian deserved to be in that championship game. I thought Brian would win that championship game. But as we all saw, when Bijan Robinson just decides to go bananas, which he did in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter what I might think. The star players are the ones who are going to get you where you need to go. And you need the star talent, essentially, to kind of win those games against elite teams. And so while I like your team a lot, I think you have the best draft, I don't know if you have the star talent to win a title. And that's really what you're going to need. You're going to need to take some of these players at some point and move them for a star player. And it's kind of crazy this year because we have multiple teams that have like a star player and essentially have like almost nothing else. And I don't know if you're going to be the team to be able to like trade with them. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is on Olivia's team and she has like Josh Allen and like very little less. I know Jerome has CeeDee Lamb and Bijan Robinson. I know Charlie has like Drake London and Saquon. And all of them, for all those players I just named, overpaid for those players. But I don't know if they were just like 2-6 and they're just like, hey, I need to move somebody. If you would be the team to be able to win a bidding war when you should be able to be the team to win that bidding war because you have all the pieces to do it. But it's your willingness to do it. So, yeah, I really like the team. I really like the draft. I question whether you will win a championship with this team. It's kind of weird. It's almost kind of like I wish I could take the teams you draft and kind of put them in the hands of someone else just to see what that person would do because you typically play it too safe. So it's interesting. I like the team. I didn't mean to go on this long rant about it, but I think you did a great job, Justin. But I thought you've done a great job with the draft the last few years. I'm hoping, it sounds kind of weird, but I'm hoping that you do make the playoffs and that you do make some noise because, frankly, with how good you draft, you ought to. A year where one of only, we won't count the new people, I'm not going to count Leyland, but among everyone else, only you and Charlie have never made the finals. And that's just kind of like, that makes me kind of sad. So I'm hoping you change that. And I think this team could be the team that does that. But I've thought that the last few years. So I'm interested to see what you do with it. Because something has to change. Anyway, B+, number one team in the draft. I do really like the team, despite all of that at the end.